Welcome back for everyone, and welcome back to everyone who is joining us by Zoom. There is never an accident about when your path and our path crosses, and so please know that we will be as attentive to you in Zoom as we are to all of our lovely folks that are here and our friends here with us in the room. Before we have our next presentation, and Richard will be introducing her, just a few announcements for you all. I do want you to know that in the back side of the museum, we have a visiting artist gallery, and that changes quarterly. And that is the USP's effort to support local artists. I wanted to introduce you to JC. JC, where are you in the room? JC is our volunteer that does all of our coordinating for our visiting artist in the back. And so he's been doing an awesome job. And we also want to recognize one of our visiting artists that are here today. Christy, could you please just say hello to everyone? So please, if you would, her artwork is on the left-hand side of the room. May we all just work to support our local artist as well. We have another one back there. Go ahead, JC, please. Who's wonderful. We have another one back there as well. So I want to make sure you engage with those artists and that we support that bringing of beauty to the world. So just a couple of thoughts. Richard mentioned the core team before, but I wanted to introduce them again to make sure those of you that are new know who they are, because they are the ones that if you need anything this weekend, they are the ones. So we have Michaela back there, who is our executive director. Michaela Presti. We have Adrian right there to the right, who handles all of the operations and handles all of the details, as well as Swananoa. So if you end up having questions about that, she's the one to ask. And Jeremy, who is the director of curations. So back there, they're the ones who help keep this going. We have additional members of the team. Also want to introduce Darren, our former chief science officer. Darren, if you would just say hello. And these folks work very, very hard to keep up this beautiful place. If you have any questions later, if you need to stop by the bookstore, they're the ones to talk to. They're having a 20% off sale for all of it. We have a number of booths in the back, so please check out. We've already mentioned Elaine, but I'd like Elaine to say hello. Just a quick hello. She's handling a booth along for our author, Dee Tompkins, that's also in our Zoom calls. They're doing some remarkable work. And I'd like to introduce also my partner, Ken Pearson, who is my co-founder and visionary with me for doing the Awaken Your Inner Genius. That is a broadcast we do every Sunday night to support the students on the home study course. And I know a number of you are with us there on Sunday nights. That's all the announcements for right now. Whew. All right, you are in for a treat this afternoon. Richard's going to introduce the Miss Diana, our speaker.
Thank you very much. I'm going to encourage everyone to be aware of all the resources at philosophy.org. We give an awful lot away for free. There's a video tab, there's an archives tab, there's a gallery tab, which gives you an awful lot of really helpful information at philosophy.org. You heard Jeffrey this morning. We're going to hear from his partner of some 45 years, Diana Bullington, in just a moment. And I also want you to know, Jeffrey mentioned that he does a transformational meditation journey on the third Monday of every month. I always catch that, so it's a packed week for me since we do the Science of the Cosmos Zoom call on the third Tuesday night and the Science of Man on the third Thursday night. But they are archived for your later replay and listening, and they're very powerful. And you can find them at oneheartcommunity.org. Also, this is the first time Jeffrey's partner, Diana, has actually, to my knowledge, spoken here, at least in Waynesboro and Afton Mountain since 2014. And we do have a few CDs back there from her talk, which also include Laura George's talk. She's the founder of the Oracle Institute. There's Kevin back there lifting them up. And so they're giveaway items if anybody still has a DVD player. Do people still use those now? I don't know. But anyway, it's a really powerful talk back there. And we're going to hear, I'm sure, an updated version. Diana Bullington has been in a 45-year marriage with Jeffrey Bullington, that's quite an accomplishment right there, if you know Jeffrey. But I will say, well, one of the things, Tesla was a bachelor. He died in 1943, having never married, maybe even never dated, I don't know. But when Walter came along and met this young lady named Leo Russell, who was also an illuminate, they carried the teaching that Walter Russell had brought through the Universal One and the Secret of Light to a really deeper, more profound expression that turns on this notion of the electrifying power of female-male balance, the power of balanced mating. Now, that's not soulmates and twin flames, mind you. This is people who are in matching, balancing tonal positions and are able to collaborate and work together. And the power of 2 cubed is 8. So when 2 people can really come together in the kind of partnership that we've seen Jeffrey and Diana do, that's a very powerful love that is unleashed with that. Now, that being said, I've thought a lot. I've known these 2 folks since, as I said this morning, from 1989 when I met them at the World Balance Conference. And, Diana's kind of the quiet one, The monkey's out there always talking, but she's the one. I'm sorry, Jeffrey. I mean that with love. And but I think of her like this gal with a kite up in the air. That kite is Jeffrey, and she's the one holding the string at the other end and making sure the deposits get made, the rent gets paid. And in Russell terms, I would say she's the cathode and he's the anode, right? If you've studied the science a little bit. They have worked with many of us that have been involved in this journey through their teaching of the practical spirituality in everyday life. How do we take this knowledge and cope with all the stuff that's coming up day in and day out? And more importantly, how do we deal with these recurring fractals that come from our childhood, that come from our ancestors, that are really self-limiting patterns? Joe Dispenza wrote a book called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, and that's a lot of what this practical spirituality in everyday life is about. First, seeing the patterns, seeing the loop that you've been running, and then after identifying it, going, oh, it's intermission. I don't have to take the script that mommy and daddy gave me, that institutional church and school gave me. I can shred that script here at intermission. And now, part 2, after intermission, I can write my own script. And you do that when you're able, and it's not easy. Diana will be giving you some tips and tools to do this. But how do you decouple from those recurring patterns? How do you move through your pain, the darkness, the uncertainty, to get into the light of your true self? And so this ability of how to change, I think the title of Diana's talk is Be the Change You Want to See in the World. And so we're talking a lot, you'll hear it from Ashley tomorrow morning, about embodiment. How do we take it and put it in our heart? How does the rubber hit the road? How do we live this stuff? And so I want to thank and welcome Diana for her outing here. This is her first time speaking here at the Russell Museum at the University of Science and Philosophy. And so we're going to hear some tools from Diana about heart-based living and the transformative power of love. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Miss Diana. Thank you so much. And thanks to all of you out there listening virtually. I know some of you are here to hear the Bullington. So here we go with the other half. And let me tell you, this other half is really powerful. Might even be the women half is often more important than the guy half, right? Whoa, not good. All right. I'm going to hand this back to somebody here.
Okay, so we don't only want to change ourselves, we want to embody these principles of love and balance and harmony within ourselves. But we see the confusion and the chaos out there in the world and what's going on. And we want to be able to embody that into the matrix of the earth as well, so that others can reach into that pool, into the morphogenic field, as Rupert Sheldrake called it, and pull that out for themselves. We all live in a relatively safe environment. You might have experienced the hurricane, you may have some chaos going on, but we're not in conflict around the world. We're not a refugee. We're not looking to eat. We're not into survival mode. We have the time and the resources, and we have had, and I know all of you are on your own path up the mountain. We've had these resources and this time to self-reflect, to go within ourselves, and to see how we could balance ourselves, how we can release the patterning and the programming of our past. If we can't do it, if we can't bring this into ourselves, then how can we expect those who are into survival mode to be able to do it? We are the ones that are being called upon to be this change, as Gandhi said. If we can't do it, then who can? We have the ability and the resources. We have the time. And we have been on the path a long, long time to do that. So to understand, Jeffrey talked a little bit about the larger universe. I want to bring it back down just to the earth and talk about that just for a moment, about how this works, how we communicate with the Gaia matrix. And so all the cells that have ever divided since the origin of life on Earth are still entangled through bioelectromagnetic fields. Jeffrey talked about that in the universal sense. Continuously exchanging information and evolving to that information to ensure survival of Gaia, the living Earth matrix, thus assuring the continuous functioning of the whole and balanced ecosystem. The forms of Earth are all one, connected in continuous communication, continuous relationship, interactive, interdependent, symbiotic with all cells of life. Photons, atoms, elements, molecules, cells, virus, bacteria, insects, plants, and us. We are all interactive, interdependent relationships, and we are here to evolve and adapt the Earth matrix to its next highest order. So without this system, the structure of Gaia would devolve. We're here, and we have the time and the ability to do it. So challenges and evolution have always been part of the process of the Earth matrix. For instance, if the environment is turning into a desert, everything shifts. The plants and the animals and the humans leave, new plants and animals come in, and just like the domino effect, these people, these animals move to another environment and they affect that environment. We are all interconnected, we are all interactive, and we change everything by every thought, feeling, and action we have. Communication and change through everything, ensuring continuance, because we all act together as one organism. Encoded into our DNA and RNA is the repository of all the decisions, successes, and failures of all attempted adaptations. So we have everything in there to reach into, to pull out in order to create something better, something more balanced, more harmonious. Most of the time, however, we act on autopilot. We act from our family timeline programming. We act from epigenetical programming. The epigenetical programming is the evolution part. It's what the Earth, all the different adaptations that have ever happened. And it's there, and it tells us how to behave, how to act on autopilot. So how do we shift to this next highest order to ensure this evolution? This encoded knowledge and this web of relationships with everything on the planet are contained in the form of us. That is the us part that makes up our adaptive Earth suit. If we can unfold the information, if we can understand the creativity buried within this matrix, within this allness, we can work consciously to create a more synergistic life. First, we do have to turn off the autopilot, and we have to turn on adaptive flexibilities. We must reprogram the hard drive. The adaptive response patterns exist to foster creativity and are evolving toward harmonious and coexistence of all forms. So what do I mean when I talk about an earth suit? If you're going to take a spacewalk, you have to put a spacesuit on. You can't live in space without a suit. You can't walk on Mars, you can't walk on the moon unless you have a suit that interacts with the environment. Same thing if you go under the ocean. You have to have a submarine, or you have to put on your diving gear and oxygen tanks so you can interact with the marine environment. Well, we're in this three-dimensional Earth right now, this Earth plane, three-dimensional, and we had to put on an Earth suit. Another way of looking at it is an avatar. If you've played computer games, I know most of you have. In order to interact in the computer game, you have to pick the little character out, the avatar, in order to dodge the lasers or jump over the boxes or whatever it is you have to do to interact. So we have an avatar or an Earth suit that we need to, in order to have interconnection with the Earth matrix. However, this is driven by, what is this? What about us? What is it? What awareness, what consciousness is it that stepped into the Earth suit? Jeffrey and I like to call that the human, not the human, the human. Hu is a quality of light. Mono is one, the light of one. You are one photon, one part, one pixel, one focal point. Essentially, spirit, awareness, consciousness, being, temporarily encased by choice in an Earth suit. And each of us is on a journey to explore the universal all. We are not separated from the source, but we are an extension of source and still connected to all that is. We are all of us, we emit from the same source. There is no I, there is only we, all, interconnected, woven together, each thing, each feeling, each thought, each action, just like in the desert, affecting every other thing, feeling, thought, and action in this Earth domain. Spirit, Earth suit, interconnected, interactive, interdependent, continuous communication, continuous relationship, symbiotic. Everything seen and unseen, known and unknown, whether we acknowledge it or not. And this includes your neighbor, your coworker, your family, your friend, and your relationships with those with whom you are currently experiencing difficulty. You are one with them too. We like to forget this. We like to deny that we are connected. We think we're all separate, and we can do what we want, we can think what we want, we can feel the way we want, and it won't affect anything else. That's not true. Through the Earth suit, through the bioelectric connection, we are connected to the matrix of the Earth completely. Every time you have a thought, every time you have a feeling, it goes into the matrix. Harmonious, unharmonious, balanced, unbalanced. It goes into that field. And then somebody else out there who's struggling, they can pick up on whatever they want. What do you want to be in the field for them to pick up on? If they're struggling, but they're reaching out and they're crying for help through their spirit and their soul, you want them to pick up on harmony, beauty, love, peace. So we all need to be putting this into the matrix. And we have our spirits which will tell us and feed us and show us how to do that. Everything affects every other thing in this matrix. If we live on autopilot, our Earth suit has been hijacked by our programming and not directed by our spirit. So we have epigenetics, that's the evolutionary part. We have societal programming, that's what Jeffrey and I call the family timeline. Us and them, us and other. It was taught, it was a survival mechanism way back when. It was taught to teach us how to understand how to interact with somebody else or some other group or some other village or some other tribe. So it taught us how to think and feel and act. And it was reinforced by our family, our peers, our coworkers, our friends, our culture, our skin, our sex, our religion, everything that you were taught in your environment. And that has taught us that we are here and they are there, and we have to defend ourselves against them because they're different than we are. And it determines each decision and each choice and each thought and feeling that we have if we stay on autopilot. Believing that you are special, that you are better, that you are above, that you are someone who is incapable of being like what you condemn, serves as grounds from which to attack those who are believed to be beneath or other. Believing that you are worse, that you have no value, and we all do this too. We do both sides. That you are incapable, that you are less than, also serves as grounds to attack yourself and to believe, I can't make a difference. I can't do anything right. I'm not going to try. I'm going to give up. So this is the autopilot that we're acting on. And it feeds conflict, failure, lack of cohesion, unwillingness to coexist and to evolve. We also have the fact that our Earth suit is made up of 50% microbes and 50% human. The microbes also have an agenda. They make hormones, digest your food, create moods. When they're out of balance, they can wreak havoc in your Earth suit. They can give you ulcers, sugar cravings, depression, and they also keep you on autopilot. These beliefs, these family timeline beliefs and evolutionary epigenetics, out-of-balance microbes create the current life you are experiencing. But just the matrix has also recorded all the successful adaptations. And I believe it was Einstein, he did talk about competition and that sort of way of evolving, but he also talked about the power of cooperation and how that also evolved the species and the planet, where two tribes would come together, and then it would become a whole region, and later a city or a state or a country. Cooperation is also part of the epigenetical information. So that possibility is in there as well to maintain the integrity of Gaia. Every darkness, every light. We've been taught, and if we work out of autopilot, we've been taught fear toward other and fear towards ourself. But when we were children, we didn't see fear. We were innocent. We saw beauty and love. We were open. We weren't afraid of everything. We had empathy and we felt light. This is in you too, and this is what we need to tap into. So it is in you, the beauty and the light. We just have to figure out how to get off and stay off of autopilot so that we can encode that not only in ourselves to create a better life for ourselves, but also within the larger matrix, the larger Gaia matrix. We have to turn other into us, into we, and create new pathways for using our minds, our hearts, and our spirits. Now, I want to explain the small act. With a ship, there's a small rudder called a trim tab. And you have to move the small rudder in order to move the big rudder, in order to move the ship in a new direction. So what I'm talking about today is not the big acts. Yes, we have to do the big acts. Whatever your talent is, put it out there. If you want to join a group or work with a group or whatever, do those things, absolutely. But we also have to do the small acts. And those happen in the now, in the moment. If a tree just fell on your car or your house from the hurricane or even something more devastating, How do you practice that? Right now in this room, it's easy to feel love and peacefulness and kindness toward each other. We're in a field of like-mindedness, and it's easy to do that. But when you're fighting with somebody, when you're having difficulty with a coworker or a person in your family, how do you do that? How do you feed harmony into that situation? How do you understand the situation so that you can bring balance to it? Would it be possible for you to hate another if you realized you were like her or were part of him? Could you attack the other if you realized that you journey with him to a goal that is the same? Would you not help her reach it? This person you're having difficulty with, would you not help them reach it if you could, if you perceived that you can't get there until they do? Because we are still all connected. It's like the quote from Rumi this morning. We are not a drop of water in the ocean. The ocean is in us, the drop of water. And what we can create and live in our own lives is what we are feeding into the ocean, and is what will bring about the evolution and the solutions that we need to move into the next highest order. We're all experiencing the same chaos and confusion and fear, and we have to be the ones, because we have the time, we have the ease. 90% of the world lives on $1 a day. They're surviving. That's all they have time to do, is to find water and food and shelter and safety. Look at us. We're well fed. We have time. We can come to a conference. We have time. We are the ones that have to encode this new information into the Earth Gaia matrix. And to do that, we have to choose to see beauty and goodness and light in the other. The other becomes your savior when you do this, your reflection, your beauty and your goodness and your light. If you can't see it in them, you're not seeing it in yourself either. Because Jeffrey and I talk about something we call the law of reflections, where the other person, the other, whom you're having difficulty with, is a mirror. They're a mirror of what you see in yourself. So if you were to think about somebody right now that you're just really having a hard time with personally, and you came up with 3 words to describe, 3 emotional words to describe that reaction, that interaction you're having with them. Think about that for a minute. Now apply that to yourself. Use those same 3 words to yourself. Reflect that. Know that you have that too, maybe to a greater or lesser degree, and maybe you have to look for it to see. But if I think somebody is selfish, then how am I selfish? If I think somebody is just, they can't communicate, how am I not communicating? If I'm like, they're so disorganized, I can't work with that person. Where in my life am I disorganized? It always is a reflection. Always there is a reflection there. When you find yourself being angry with somebody or thinking negative thoughts towards somebody, use that as an alarm clock going, okay, right now I don't accept myself. What am I saying about myself? What did I just say about that other person? I'm so disappointed in them. Okay, how are you disappointed in yourself right now? What's really going on? Because if you can't look within yourself and reflect and see how to change that within yourself, then how are you changing anything? How are you not being the problem? You're not being the solution if you're not changing that within yourself. They are your mirror. And it doesn't matter if it's somebody you know personally or if it's you're reading the news thread on your phone and you just read something about some world leader or whatever, and you're just like boiling mad about it. Okay, what about that makes you so mad? And what is that reflecting about you? And if you just send that energy of anger to that person or that situation, then how have you changed anything? How have you evolved the species? How have you evolved Gaia? We have to see the beauty and the goodness. We have to look for those things. And maybe sometimes you have to look hard. But one thing I can always see about people, others, is they're lost and confused. I am. Sometimes I get lost. Still, I get lost, confused. I'm presented with a challenge and I don't know what to do. If I see that about them, I understand. They're not connected. They don't remember their spirit. They don't remember what they are. They don't remember they are a spirit living in an earth form, having an experience, trying to evolve the Gaia matrix. They are just reacting to whatever they've been taught, and they don't know any better. That doesn't mean you excuse the behavior, but you can understand it. And then once you understand it, you take that person or that situation and you put prayer into it. You put light into it. You ask the universal all to come to them and help them find their way. Help them find a solution. Help them be their spirits. That's what we have to do. We have to see the beauty and the goodness. We have to bring this out of other people. So, to review, out of the entire Earth matrix, consisting of all the communication and adaptation between all the cells, everything that has ever been learned, we tend to primarily extract information from evolutionary epigenetics, 3D limited senses, family timeline memory, and out-of-balance microbes. That's autopilot. We're using that to survive, but we're not growing with that. And it causes us to narrow our life decisions and fall back on autopilot. Not remembering how to understand and communicate with this entire living earth matrix and not remembering how to tap into our spirit makes it impossible to be fluid and flexible. We're forgotten. We are spirit inhabiting avatar. So that's when we're seeing that about someone else, we know they don't remember who they are. We're not remembering that we're spirit inhabiting an avatar. We've forgotten that we're connected to everything. Constantly signals are going out, but we don't remember that. We can't feel that. We feel through the 3D senses. That's why we believe we're these little limited beings, these little earth suit bodies that we're encased in, because we feel this, but we don't feel the unconditional love from our spirits. It doesn't feel real. The spirit doesn't. And so how many of us live and make decisions, react 24/7 from our spirit? How often? I do it once in a while. I don't do it most of the time. I still get lost in all kinds of confusion, and I get caught up in the moment. I don't have enough time, or I don't have enough this or that. I still get lost. We all do. We have to come back to the moment. What's going on in the moment? And how can I change and see this moment when I'm feeling flustered or afraid? You choose appreciation. You look around and you see what's beautiful in your life. What's beautiful right there in this moment? Are you outdoors, or are you with a friend? Are you traveling to a new something or other in your life? You have gratitude for the things you have. You change your perceptions of what's going on around you. And you send out kind thoughts to yourself and to others, to whomever you're thinking about. You choose harmonious interactions. Shift your emotions from fear to joy and laughter, the emotions of spirit. Stop blaming. Stop blaming yourself. Stop blaming others. It doesn't serve any purpose. Accept, okay, you've done this, you've done that, so what? What's now? What's happening now? How can I be kind and loving to myself in this moment? How can I be kind and loving to somebody else in front of me in this moment? Forgive yourself. We've all made mistakes. For a long time, I didn't trust myself because of the mistakes I'd made. I didn't trust my spirit. I didn't trust my earth suit. I was afraid to live with a large L as spirit. I was afraid to live with a little L as earth suit. It pulled me back from living. But what I realized at one point, that I was still feeding the field with my fear and my uncertainty about myself. So I was still feeding the field. I still was living, and I wasn't putting out there what I wanted to put out because I didn't trust, because I'd forgotten how to remember my spirit and how to just put this earth suit in proper perspective. It's not me. I'm just using it to experience this particular place in this time at now. So tap into your spirit. Accept the beauty about yourself, that you are beauty and peace and unconditional love, and that you are lovable. Anything less is the lie of the three-dimensional programming. So this matrix, this interdependent state of relationship, beginning with light waves, I'm talking about the earth here, forming densified patterns of cells, microbes, and life forms, forming your communication through your DNA and RNA, encoding adaptive response patterns for sustainability and adaptability, containing the knowledge of all Earth's learning, informs our complex brain to enact behaviors to ensure evolution of the larger organism. As far as the matrix is concerned, our Earth suits are only a cog in the wheel of evolution. If we want to ensure that our avatar continues in this matrix, that it would be our Earth suits. If we want to ensure humanity's survival as a species on this planet, make no mistake about it, Earth can do without us. She doesn't need us, but she wants to work with us. If we want to ensure that we are a necessary cog, we have to become conscious co-creators, advancing the design, the health, and the viability of the whole. The matrix, Earth, Gaia, all life forms are seeking conscious interaction with us as spirit through avatar Earth suit. How are we supposed to advance the platform? Well, we have 4 brains that were evolved as part of that, and it allows us to self-reflect, to self-determine. And it was evolved to counter autopilot. That's why we in here have engaged in self-reflection. We have tried to work through our programming, tried to attain and resonate with our spirits. So can we, as spirit, use our collective abilities to co-create together? We can. We can use this brain, the higher brain, the totality of knowledge from Gaia, and the greater insight of our spirit to introduce new solutions, to imagine anew. One of the things we have to realize is that thoughts are real. They actually create action in the world. People who are paralyzed are now getting brain implants. Those implants talk to a computer. Their thought wave hits the brain implant. The implant talks to the computer via digital code, and then the computer moves the robotic arm that they have. In some cases, the computer is actually part of the robotic arm, so it comes from the thought into the implant, and then they can move the arm. The thought creates the actual action. It moves the body in this case. If they can do that now using brain implants, they can prove that thoughts are real, They do create action, and so do your feelings. Your feelings are the carrier wave of the thoughts, and they create actual action in the world. So if they can do this, can't we change our reality as well with our thoughts and our emotions? We have to believe differently. We have to realize that every thought and every emotion we have actually creates change, for better or for worse. Balanced or unbalanced, it's up to us. Not only in our own personal lives, but in the entire Earth matrix. And she wants us to work with her. If you think badly or kindly of someone or some event or some experience, you instantly affect that person. You bring them down, you build them up. Your thoughts and feelings help to balance their energy and their self, or you unbalance them. You are blessing or condemning them. You are part of the problem or part of the solution. And it lies in the little things we do in the moment, the thoughts we have in each moment now. Be the change. The path lies through your heart. Appreciation, gratitude, acceptance are what you must feel if you want to live in a coexistive world. Unconditional love for yourself and other. We are the light of one on a journey here on earth now, living through a body, consciously choosing to live in harmony and balance within this matrix. I know I've been on the path for a long, long time, and I've been seeking peace, beauty, joy, love, abundance, and I've attained it sometimes. And I know because of that, I have to share what I've got, what I've learned and how I've grown. So do you, or should you? Ask yourselves, and can you, and will you? It comes down to the moment, the now. What are you thinking and feeling in the now? When you're standing in front of the clerk at the grocery store, are you just being rushed and harried, or can you take a moment and say, you have a beautiful smile? Or when somebody cuts you off in traffic, are you going to think, "Rrr," and all that and growl at them? Or are you going to go, wow, I'm being slowed down for a reason, thank you. I hope you arrive to your place safely. Bless them. Give these thoughts out, but it's in the moment. It's in the now that we have to do it. Yes, do the big things, but each little moment is the only thing that really exists. The past is done. The future hasn't happened. There is only this moment. So when somebody is in your face and giving you a hard time, how do you bless them in that moment? How do you hold them in your heart? Remember that you are not speaking to someone other than yourself. You are speaking to yourself. Use the law of reflections. If they're in your face, how are you being in your own face right now? If you're too hurried to say a kind thought to somebody that you're passing by, then how are you being kind to yourself? And the really big things, which we all can get caught up in, is when we read the news. We look and see what's going on in the world. And it's easy to get caught up in that stream and have all these emotions about it. How are you feeling about that? How can you change how you feel about that? How can you do something different? How can you see them differently? How can you bless that situation? How can you understand it and say prayers that harmony is brought to it. Yes, do the big stuff, but do all the little moments, all the little thoughts you have every second of every day. That's what I'm here to talk about, to urge you to remember. It's the now that counts. It's what you do now, because even if you're working on a big project out there, but you're still so full of frustration and anger, you still haven't shifted it, because the energy is still going in of frustration and anger. You might change. They might pass a law. They might change this. They might do that. But then somebody else is going to find a way around it, and you're still going to have to keep fighting the issue over and over and over again until you change it in your heart. And remember, when you're having a difficulty, whether it's financial or health or whatever it is, you turn to the universal net, the all that is. You call on that entangled web of resources from the matrix, all of its knowledge, adaptability, and fluidity, all of its associations and relationships. And not only on your human resources, but all of it, everything from the Gaia matrix. You call on everything, and you call on your spirit. You recall your spirit. It's not just a one-shot deal. The answer doesn't just come in a straight line, because the relationships are humongous. It's this gigantic web of neurons. Anything can come your way. Any answer can come to your solution, as your solution to your problem. Anything is possible, and even what you think is impossible is not impossible if it's the right timing for you for that moment. The impossibility can also happen. You can be healed if you think that's an impossibility, or you can find the perfect job if you think that's an impossibility, or we can find harmony on the planet. We may think that's an impossibility. It's such a big job. But if we all start working together and connecting our consciousnesses together, our hearts together, and we don't have to all be in the same room either. We just have to remember, feel that energy toward each other. And not just the people you know that are on the same path as you, but everybody, the grocery store clerk, whoever it is that you're thinking about. Enclose them in the same web of love and acceptance and gratitude, so that you can also bring that about in their lives and make a bigger web of light and love for the solutions of all the problems on the planet right now. And if you have to walk away from a relationship or a job, bless them for the lessons. Don't curse them, bless them. Okay. Wow, I learned a lot from you. Thank you. You don't have to say it to them, but you have to feel it in your own heart. Well, a couple of the things that I've done in the past that has really helped me is I made a gratitude list. I wrote down everything I was grateful for in my life and everything I could think of. And it wasn't just in my life. It was the butterflies. It was whatever. The birds that I see in the morning. The fact that I can drink coffee on my porch in the summertime. Whatever. And then I made another list. I made an appreciation list. Make an appreciation list of all the things that you appreciate in your life and all the people that you appreciate. And then I made a third list, and it was the miracle list. And wow, I had 4 pages of that. When I started thinking through my life, how this worked out and that worked out, and I lived here for 20 years and the rent never went up, and whatever. And all the little things. How when my car broke down, it broke down right in front of the garage. I didn't have to have it towed. All these little miracles and big miracles. Because that reminds you that you are loved and that you are taken care of and that the matrix is always there to help you. Your spirit will always guide you if you call upon it, if you reach out to it. It will always take you where you need to be. It will always give you the solution and the answer. It will explain to you what you need to learn and what you've learned, and it will help you to shift your perception on it so you can see it differently. It will give you everything you require. Remember that every emotion feeds Gaia. Encode blessings and harmony. Accept that you are lovable, talented, and beautiful because you are. You're not flawed. Anything that you did that you might say was wrong or bad or flawed, just a lesson along the way. It was just part of the process. You learned and you grew. You're beautiful. You grew. You went from being the caterpillar into the chrysalis, into the butterfly. Do you think the caterpillar felt good when its body was breaking down into it knew not what? It didn't know it was going to be a butterfly, and it didn't like the feelings, I'm sure, because everything's breaking down. But then when it got out and it could fly, and it was beautiful, and everybody went, instead of, ew, yuck, you're a caterpillar, they were like, you're so beautiful. My friend just sent me pictures of that. That's why it's in my mind right now. She had the chrysalis, and then she had it developing, and then she had the butterfly. It was really cool. It was just really nice. Make your constant heart prayer be, help me to stay in tune, in the flow, and balanced. Always keep that in your heart so that everything you do, divine synchronicity, and everybody goes out of their way to help me, so that these become what happens in your life. These become your experiences. Let your heart become a dowsing rod to those that you can uplift, to situations where you can be a trim tab, where you can make the slightest little connection with somebody. You might make somebody's day just by looking at them and saying, wow, that is the best color you're wearing today, or anything. Just, you have a beautiful smile, whatever. You don't know how it's changed their life. You don't know how it's changed the lives of the people they're connected to. Be a trim tab and use your heart to take you to the people that you can help and love the most, and who can also give that back to you. You can ease their hearts. You can help them. You can give them the hope and the spark they need to carry on, and show them their way home that way. And do it. You don't have to do it just with people you love or care about or know. Do it with random people, and do it with people in your mind. Okay, so you read a story on the news. You don't know this person, but they had some kind of misfortune. You read about it. Say a prayer for them. Help them out with your heart. I've done that many times. There's still people I remember from news articles 20 years ago, and every time I think of that story, I bless those people. I don't even know if they're alive. They lived in Africa. I didn't know them. But it touched my heart, so I always reach out to their heart whenever I happened to have that memory about that person. It is real. It affects them. Instantaneously, it affects them. Only now exists, and only now presents the opportunities for being love, harmony, acceptance. That's where peace is, in feeling these feelings. When you're angry, you don't feel peace. You don't help the other, but you're not helping yourself either. So live in the now, because that's where you will find your peace. And look around yourself to find the moment, the now, the beauty of the now. Just look around. You'll see it if you just take a moment to see and feel what's going on around you, to see the goodness, the beauty and the goodness in every encounter you have. And if you're struggling and you just don't feel like feeling good right now, think about some situation or some person you know for sure you love. You know you love them. Feel that feeling. Bring that feeling of love that you have for them into your heart to soothe yourself. And then you'll be able to put that back out to others, because you can turn it in, then transfer it to what's going on in your current encounter. Focus on the little things. Find things that surprise you and fill you with wonder and gratitude. Look for these things in your life. Look for the butterflies and the birds, or whatever floats your boat, whatever you love. Look for those things. Find the good and the blessing in everything. Live life in anticipation of wonders and miracles. I have a little card somebody gave me a long time ago, and I hang it up where I saw it every day, and it says, expect miracles. It reminds me that everything can be a miracle in my life. And I can have miracles every single day and every single moment. And believe me, if you're feeling love and peace, that right there is a miracle. That is a miracle, because it's not that easy when you get caught up in the world to always feel that way. Share your gifts and your talents and your creativity, whatever it is. Share it with others. Don't be afraid. Don't hold back. Use heart art, like a painting or a song. Create new patterns of cohesiveness with those you love and those who you don't love and those who you're afraid of. Fold that into the matrix. Heart art, love, appreciation, gratitude. Of course, you all know how to laugh with your friends, meditate, join whatever group you need, take whatever classes make your heart sing. All of these things will. We each have experienced amazing things, miracles in our life. Share that with others. Earlier when I was having lunch, I was asking a couple of people that I had just met to tell me something really cool about their life, something that had happened. And it felt good to me. I hope it felt good to them, but I know it felt good to me to hear somebody else's amazing story. It made me feel like there was hope. It made me remember my highest self. It made me feel whole and complete. And I'll remember these things when I'm not feeling that way, when I'm feeling down or confused or lost. So make your list, seriously. Get some paper out or do it on your phone, whatever, however that works. Make a gratitude list. Make an appreciation list. Make a miracle list and reread them for yourself to remind you that you are loved and that the universe takes care of you. It sends you things to be grateful for. It sends you things to appreciate, and you have miracles in your life. And believe me, I thought I'd maybe write a page of miracles, but I just kept thinking one led to the next and one led to, and when I got done, I was like, are you kidding me? And the next day, I didn't continue writing it down, but the next day I was thinking, oh yeah, you forgot this and you forgot that and you forgot this. It reminds you that you are not alone, that the universe is seeking to co-create with you and to work with you, and wants our success as spirit living through Avatar. Appreciate the beauty and the goodness that surrounds you. Feel the preciousness, the divine spirit of the person you are encountering, whoever they are. Feed and bless their spirit. I gave myself an exercise a few years ago, and it was hard at the time. I lived in a town. I live in the country now, so I don't do this now because I never hear sirens. But when I lived in a city, I heard sirens. And my exercise was simple. When you hear a siren, police, ambulance, whatever, say a prayer for that person. Just say a prayer. Just say, God, please be with them and their family. That's all you got to say. Well, I could do it sometimes. Other times it's like, I don't feel like it. I don't have time. Well, how much time does it take to say that? And how much time does it take to feel it? But when I was doing that, I used the law of reflection, and I thought, okay, I don't feel good about myself right now. That's why I don't want to say a prayer for somebody else, because I don't feel good about me. I don't want to bless myself. So I don't want to bless them just because I heard that siren. It got easier, but that did surprise me in the beginning. I thought it would be an easy exercise, and it wasn't, until I learned to love myself more. Envision healing for others. Remember that they feel alone and lost and confused like we do, and they need agape, which means all-encompassing love. They need agape as well as we need it. And if you give it to them, you're giving it to yourself. If you can't give it to them, then you don't feel like giving it to yourself either at that moment. You just do not. Remember that this other is another aspect of you, deserving your understanding, acceptance of their spiritual natures. Because we are all one, connected through the earth suit and connected through spirit. We're together. We're in this together, and we can't one evolve without evolving everybody else. It doesn't work any other way. It has to work as one cohesive whole. And whatever we put out there creates balance or unbalance. Live the change you wish to see in the world. Remember, it's in the little movements from your heart that will shift the big movements. It's the little movements. It's the moment-to-moment now thoughts and feelings, especially how you feel, because it's easy to think a thought, but it's not as easy to feel that feeling that goes with it. Even if you're saying, oh, bless that person, are you really feeling, bless that person? Really? I understand they're struggling. Bless them. Help them find their way home. Have faith in yourself. Believe in yourself, in your path, in all you do. Believe that you can make a difference. Don't turn your back on what you are. Don't give up. A path will open. And in closing, I would like to read this from Marianne Williamson. It's always inspired me. First time I read it, I was like, uh-oh, that speaks to me. She said, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightening about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to manifest the glory of God within us. It's not just in some of us. It's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. And as we are liberated from our own fears, our presence automatically liberates others. So live the change you wish to see in the world. Thank you.
What a bright light she is. What a bright light. It is time for just a little bit of Q&A before we take a quick break. Could anybody have any questions for either Diana or Jeffrey from earlier today? And we'll ask the Zoom folks as well. Any questions in the audience? Yes.
One of the questions, if I remember this correctly, was our microbes. How else can we affect our microbes in addition to our thoughts and feelings?
Oh, well, actually, I'm not an expert on that. There are a lot of things, and I'm sure you would have to really look that up or talk to someone who studies the physical form more than I do. But I'm sure that we need to balance the parasites. We need to change the way we eat. We need to exercise. I mean, we need to take care of our physical bodies. But I believe there was someone who was unable to make it who was going to address that today. Unfortunately, I wish I could answer that one, but the way I've done it is to change how I eat. Really, it's to watch the way I eat and to move my body more. But if you're really out of balance, you may need a lot more intervention than that.
JC, would you mind helping me bring up the leather stool for Jeffrey, for him up here as well? Thank you. Thank you. Other questions that we have before we take a break? Yes. JC's coming behind you.
Jeffrey, is there any program that you hear that people seem to run into the most?
Thank you, JC.
Hang on a minute. I'll say that a little loud, please.
Is it on? We need a little louder. It is.
It is, okay.
It is. It just needs to be turned up a bit.
Okay, good. My question is, as you work with people as a counselor and you're working them through the family timeline process, is there any pattern or program that comes up over and over most frequently with the most people?
Yes.
What would that be?
I can put it down in just a few words. I'm not enough. Every one of you has it. There's not a person alive that doesn't have the program, I'm not enough. And that comes from what we were taught. And it's everybody's trying to break that. It comes up all the time. And no matter what I'm dealing with, that comes up. That's a good question, Richard, because it's the same pattern you all have. I have it. She has it.
We believe we're incapable, we're useless, we're worthless. We've been taught that. I mean, it's not true, but it's still encoded into us.
Yep. And it's hard to get out because
And-
it comes up so often. In so many little ways. More
Other-
questions?
Other questions? Yes. I needed more steps.
What about the heart? The electricity of the heart, the emotions, sending the messages to the brain to create the thoughts.
You can hold
What's
that if
your
you want.
comment on that?
Okay, good. Did you understand the question?
Well, they actually work at the same time. They happen at the same time. You have a thought and emotion that goes together. You can regulate that. You can change, you can say, I love that person, but really feel not love. You're just trying to love somebody. Or you can say, I love that person, and really send out the same energy of love at the same time.
I think it's important when I'm leading meditations, and if you've ever been in on those meditations, one of the things I do is I ask you to use what's called memory breathing. And the way you do that is you remember something when we first started today. I want you to remember the gift that somebody gave you, a kindness that someone gave you. Once you do that, you have the energy you want. And that raises the vibration of your thought. And the higher you go, I don't want to get into all the physics that go with that, but the higher the emotion you have with your thought, the more it affects the outcome. Well, at a higher vibration. So if you want to create love, you sit down, you think about it, how that feels inside of you. The best thing to do is go to a memory you have, that where you're experiencing that love, and then say the prayer, then do the thought, then do the action, because that's the key, is the emotion. That's the most important thing you can remember, is use the emotion when you're getting ready to do something. Get yourself centered and use the emotion first, and then do your work, because that's what will happen. It will carry it. And you see it all the time with people when they're not being very nice. They use a very negative thought, but they do the same thing. So when you're wanting to create something and you don't have a positive thought about money, we use a technique where we go and borrow a memory. And the way you do that is, let's say you've been on the beach. Okay, most of you have been on the beach before, you've been at the ocean. Okay, so you're sitting there and you're remembering how the sand feels under your feet, you're remembering how it feels to be relaxed and calm. Then think about money. Don't think about the lack first, because that's what you'll get. And that's how you manifest much better. Is that clear enough? Okay. Good question, Kevin.
Other questions?
Oh, good. We got off light.
Okay, well, let's give them, yes, sir. Yes, Steve, who came all the way from Missouri.
I enjoyed your talk this morning, especially the counseling approach where you found the timing in utero. And it's a very interesting approach, and I'm curious, it sounds like that is one of your approaches that you use in counseling. And I'm curious, what percentage of the patients or people that you see do you actually find that type of pattern to be present?
I think the key for me, it always has been, I learned this the very first class. I taught it, I had planned it. I never did it again. When I go into the class, no matter if I see you every week, you're always a different person. So the key for me is to establish unconditional love and acceptance. When you come into that environment, I want you to be able to put your heart and mind down there on the table. You're not going to be judged for nothing. And to be able to touch that person, because then they'll open up when they feel safe. And a person has to be able to feel safe to be able to heal. No matter what you've dealt with in your life, no matter what kind of abuse you've had, you're safe. And you can bring that out. And once you bring that out, you're already starting to heal. And that's a really important part. If you're going to do counseling, I think it's really important.
And you were talking about in utero, is that correct?
Okay, in utero especially,
All of it,
Always.
everybody, always. We all have been influenced by whatever our parents experienced in utero while we were there.
it goes back 4 generations. The biggest influence goes back 4 generations. That's your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, or your great-great. That's the strongest influence on your consciousness.
And that's also called, that's another part of epigenetics. Because epigenetics, whatever they experienced, your great-grandparents maybe had to migrate or had starvation or whatever. It actually flips genes. It actually flips
Turns them on and off.
things on and off so that their descendants each react differently because of that happening. So it actually does go back through many generations.
In healing, I go back to utero with everybody. Everybody. Because that's where they start to learn about what influenced them. Because we have influences going on right now in you all that your parents had. It's just the way it is. But you don't remember that because it's your subconscious. If your parents argued, I had all kinds of slides for another show that show that, how that actually works. And that's really, when you're thinking about who you are, it comes back to what you inherited and then what you added to that without you even knowing it. It's a great question because it's so true for all of us. We didn't know what our parents, you didn't know your parents before you were born. Come on. You didn't know what they went through. And if they tell you, you'll be lucky because they don't want you to know. So their struggles became your struggles. I always encourage people while your parents are alive, if you possibly can, to go back and talk to them, find out what was going on when you were being carried. It's such a big deal that you're asking about.
It will help you understand your own challenges too.
Yes.
Definitely.
Because they will go into your offspring, whatever you were feeling. You know, it's true what I said about that if the mother has 5 episodes, they're just simple things. You know, just simple little things that go logged into you and get programmed in when the mind is building itself. 1,000,000 connections every minute. And you think about what's around that child, what they're seeing on television, what they're getting on the computers. No wonder we're having such a hard time. The children are disconnected, but they're also disconnected from your womb part. And that's something not taught. I don't hear that being taught very much at all about the womb and what you experienced in there. Because if everybody in here, everybody, no exceptions. And if you could take that first 2,000 days and go out there and know that every woman who gets pregnant should have food, she should have shelter, she should have counseling, she should have everything she needs to raise that child, and we would change our civilization in 20 years, period. 20 years. We can do this. But it means really focusing on our children. Children first is what we advocate.
If you're a parent, and if your children are open to it, they may or may not be, explain some of those things to them if you think you can, so they can understand the influences that might be affecting their lives.
Yep.
If you feel like you have that relationship with your children, do that for them.
I encourage parents to talk about what they went through with their kids so they will know when they have something come up. And just like that young man I talked about, here's an influence he had. He didn't know any of that. He didn't talk to his parents about that. But it was affected his life. Those first 2,000 days are critical to the development of our species. to every one of you. Look at the wisdom you got in this room from all the mistakes we made. You know, that's how we learn. And I'm not kidding. My first teacher was your first teacher. Pain. That's what I experienced. That's what taught me, pain. I don't complain about it. It's just a fact that pain taught you. We don't need that if we're loved. If we love a child and nurture them when they're in utero by playing the proper music and nurturing them and loving them, it changes everything in their perspective about what they will do when they grow up. And it is so important. Leo talked about that. We all talk about this.
Well, it's exciting to see a number of people in healthcare starting to recognize some of that, and there is a growing field in healthcare where they're beginning to understand this idea of in the wave lies the secret of creation, and they recognize the love wave in the room when the children are being born
They sure
can have
do.
great power.
They will kick. I'll tell you one quick example. It's okay. A friend of ours, she was pregnant, and there was a small group of us that got together and did meditation and spiritual work together. And so the baby was sideways. And so we sit down in that room with her at that moment. All of us focused. We breathed. We went to meditation. We turned the baby around. Right then and there, she felt it happen to her. So that baby didn't have to go through surgery. That woman didn't have to go through surgery. We are so powerful. We really are. But it's what you have inside of you that's so powerful, not what's outside. We're taught, you know what our God is? I'll explain what your God is to you. It's what you think about all day long. That's your God. I'm not criticizing that. It's a fact. You sit down with me, I'm going to ask you those questions. What do you think about all day? I don't care if it's sex, time, money, it doesn't matter to me. It does to you. What we've made on this earth, if you look around us, we've made money God. It's not a put down. We build the images. We build more banks than churches now. They're everywhere because they told you money would make you happy. The longest study ever done on longevity asked this question over and over to the same families from the beginning of the Depression all the way through. It's still going on. And this is what they started out with. Fame and money will make me happy. By the time they're 50, they've changed that. Now it's relationships. Relationships is the number one thing in your life. When I deal with, in hospice, and I deal with people crossing over, I remind them it's your relationships that are long-lasting. Nothing but that. So we're old enough, all this room, to know that. But yet the young people are taught from the get-go, money's going to make you happy. It can't. There's no way. Because you've already assigned it the value that it's supposed to be wonderful, and it isn't. You struggle with it. So remember that. Relationships in your life, whoever they are, whatever they are, cherish them and try to do your healing while you're on the earth. With your parents, with your grandparents, with other people. It's what we advocate. Heal now. It's so much easier than I have to take you on a journey to the other side and meet your ancestors and do this. It really is. Come on, it's much easier here. You will be so happy. Your soul will be happy. Yes.
I'm probably going to break up because I am a living testament to Jeffrey and Diana and the proof of the family timeline and unweaving that they provided for me. When Leo Russell asked me to take her age of character and reform it, I had a vision. And Jeffrey and Diana saw the deep pain and suffering in me that was keeping me from being able to go forward with that. And Jeffrey and Diana took me into their home and helped release me from the bonds of the family timeline. And my tormentor, my mother, today is now my guru. He turned my mother, my tormentor, into my guru by teaching me the truth of what he's sharing with all of you today. So I just want to tell you what a blessing you all are receiving and hearing from them today. The truth and the honesty of how being able to break free from these things can release the gifts we all have.
Wow. Wow. Well, is there any other questions or anything to be said? What do you say after that? That was powerful. That was powerful. If you all would join me in thanking Jeffrey and Diana for their gift of love. Before we go to break, I think one of the most important phrases that Diana said was, "Don't feed the field with fear." Very powerful 6 words I think would behoove us all to remember as we go forward. Yes.
Teaching in action. This gentleman's phone went off a while ago.
Hold on, we want our Zoom folks to hear you.
When this gentleman's phone went off during your talk, nobody jumped on him. We all smiled. So I don't know about the greater effort here, but in this small room, we showed love back to him. Small
Perfect time.
activity.